You ever notice how the people who get under your skin the most are the ones you give all your energy to? You sit there replaying what they said, what they did, or how they treated you, and suddenly their voice is louder in your head than your own. That's why you're exhausted. That's why you feel like you're losing yourself. It's not because they're powerful, it's because you keep handing over your power every time you react. And the truth is, if you want to live with peace, if you want to stop being controlled by what other people think or say, you've got to learn the art of detachment. Detachment isn't about not caring. It's about not letting their drama hijack your peace of mind. It's looking at someone trying to provoke you and saying, "Not today." It's watching someone try to drag you into their storm and choosing to stay in your calm. Because when you're calm, you win. People expect you to explode, to defend yourself, to justify, to prove them wrong. But when you choose silence, when you stay grounded instead of reactive, you flip the script. They don't know what you're thinking. They don't know how much control you have, and that uncertainty drives them crazy. Think about it. The strongest people aren't the loudest in the room. They're the ones who don't need to explain themselves to anyone. They walk away when the energy is wrong. They protect their inner world like it's gold. And here's the kicker: the moment you stop reacting, the moment you detach, people are forced to sit with their own behavior. They're left wondering, and that's powerful. So here's the shift. You don't need to fight every battle. You don't need to chase approval. You don't need to explain your choices. You need to detach, stay calm, and let them wonder. Because the truth is, peace will always outlast drama, and calm will always be stronger than chaos. When you think about the times you've felt most drained, most exhausted, and most powerless, wasn't it usually after an encounter with someone who knew exactly how to push your buttons? It's not the workload, the errands, or the daily grind that drains you most. It's the people you allow to live rent-free in your head. Think about that one person whose words replay over and over in your mind long after the conversation is done. Maybe it's a coworker who always makes that sly remark, or a family member who knows exactly how to get under your skin. You walk away from the interaction feeling like your energy has been sucked dry, not because of what they did, but because of how much power you gave them by reacting. I remember a story about a woman who always dreaded family gatherings. Every single time, her aunt would make comments about her weight, her job, or why she wasn't married yet. At first, she would argue, explain, and try to defend herself. By the time the night was over, she wasn't just upset with her aunt, she was angry at herself for letting it ruin her entire evening. The truth is, her aunt wasn't powerful. Her aunt didn't control her life. But every time she reacted, she handed her aunt the keys to her peace. And here's the lesson: when you keep reacting, you're not just responding to someone else, you're giving them authority over how you feel. So ask yourself, how many times have you spent hours of your day replaying something someone said that really doesn't matter? How often do you lose sleep, not because of your own mistakes, but because you're angry at how someone else treated you? And here's the harder question: why do you let them hold that much power over you? Because every time you react, every time you hand over your calm to someone else's chaos, you're letting them dictate your energy. The shift comes when you realize that no one can drain you without your permission. When you stop reacting, you cut off the fuel they need to control you. It doesn't mean you don't feel hurt or disappointed. It means you choose not to bleed energy into someone else's negativity. It means you recognize that the loudest noise doesn't deserve the most attention. One actionable step you can take is to practice pausing before responding. The next time someone makes a comment that stings, don't snap back, don't rush to defend, just pause, breathe. Ask yourself, do I really want to give this person the power to ruin my mood? That moment of silence is where your strength lies. Because when you stop reacting, when you stop feeding them with your energy, you keep your peace intact. And the truth is, peace is far more valuable than winning an argument. Detachment is one of the most misunderstood concepts in life. People hear the word and immediately assume it means not caring, shutting down, or being cold, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Detachment is not about cutting yourself off emotionally. It's about creating space between you and the chaos around you so that your peace isn't constantly being hijacked. It's about deciding that your mental health, your calm, and your self-respect are more important than engaging in every little battle someone tries to pull you into. Take the example of a man working in a toxic office environment. His boss constantly criticizes him, his coworkers gossip, and there's always drama in the air. At first, he tries to prove himself. He works longer hours, explains himself over and over, and even joins in the gossip just to feel like he belongs. But the harder he tries, the more drained he feels. One day, after yet another blow-up meeting, he realizes something powerful. No matter what he does, some people are committed to misunderstanding him. That's when he decides to detach. He stops explaining himself to people who don't want to listen. He does his work, sets boundaries, and when others try to drag him into their negativity, he simply doesn't engage. He's not rude. He's not careless. He's simply protecting his peace. And within weeks, he feels lighter, stronger, and more focused. Not because the office changed, but because he did. Detachment is a choice to protect your energy. Think about how much time you waste trying to change people who don't want to change, convince people who don't want to understand, or prove yourself to people who have already made up their minds. Isn't it exhausting? Doesn't it leave you feeling powerless? The truth is, when you detach, you take that power back. You stop needing people's approval. You stop allowing their moods to dictate your day. You stop being a prisoner to other people's chaos. A simple way to start practicing detachment is to repeat this question to yourself: is this worth my peace? The next time someone cuts you off in traffic, instead of screaming and stewing about it for the next hour, ask yourself, is this worth my peace? The next time a family member digs at you with a passive-aggressive comment, pause and ask, is this worth my peace? 99% of the time the answer is no. And when you make peace your top priority, you begin to see that detachment is actually the deepest form of strength. Because here's the thing, anyone can explode, anyone can argue, anyone can get pulled into drama. But it takes real strength to look at the chaos and say, I choose calm. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care too much about yourself to let someone else control you. There's a quiet power in staying calm when everything around you feels like it's on fire. Think about the last time someone tried to push your buttons, maybe a boss who's their voice, a partner who threw sharp words at you, or a stranger who disrespected you. In that moment, your body wanted to react. Your chest tightened, your face burned, and you wanted to lash back instantly. But here's the truth. Reacting in the heat of the moment rarely serves you. It gives away your control. It hands over your peace to someone else's chaos. The strongest person in the room is not the loudest. It's the one who doesn't let their emotions run the show. I once met a woman who worked in a high-pressure corporate job. Her boss was notorious for exploding in meetings. Most people shrank or snapped back, but she did something different. Whenever he unleashed his frustration, she sat back, breathed, and calmly responded with clarity. Over time, her composure shifted the entire dynamic. He began to respect her. Colleagues started to seek her leadership. Her calm wasn't weakness, it was authority. Isn't it ironic how silence and stillness can sometimes speak louder than shouting? When you stay calm, you send a message without words. I'm not controlled by this. I decide how I respond. That's powerful, but let's be honest, it's hard to master. Your emotions feel like a storm. Anger wants to pour out, frustration bubbles, and your pride begs for a comeback. But what if instead of pouring gasoline on the fire, you chose to be water? What if instead of proving yourself in that moment, you prove that you're unshakable? Ask yourself, what do I gain by reacting right now? And what might I gain by holding back? One of the most practical things you can do is create a pause. The pause is your secret weapon. When someone throws negativity at you, take a breath before you respond. Sometimes that pause is 1 second, sometimes it's a deep inhale, sometimes it's excusing yourself from the room. That pause creates space for your rational mind to step in before your emotions hijack the moment. The pause is where your power lies. Real strength isn't about controlling others, it's about mastering yourself. Think of athletes at the highest level. When the crowd boos or the opponent taunts, the best performers stay laser focused. They don't let the noise get inside their head. You can do the same in your own life. The next time someone tries to bait you, remind yourself, calm is not surrender, calm is strategy, calm is confidence, calm is knowing that your energy is too valuable to be wasted on nonsense. So the question is, will you let other people dictate your emotional state, or will you choose calm and let them wonder how you do it? The choice is always yours. There's something incredibly powerful about detachment, and most people misunderstand it. Detachment is not about being cold, emotionless, or shutting people out. It's about having the courage to step back and recognize that not everything requires your reaction, your energy, or your constant involvement. Think about how much time you've wasted obsessing over someone's opinion of you replaying their words in your head, or letting their actions dictate how you feel about yourself. When you detach, you free yourself from that invisible chain. You stop living like a puppet pulled by the strings of other people's behavior, and you start reclaiming your peace. I remember a story of a man who was working tirelessly in a job where his contributions were constantly overlooked. He wanted recognition so badly that he burned himself out trying to impress his manager. Every criticism, every dismissal pierced him like a dagger. It wasn't until he learned to detach, to give his best without tying his worth to external approval, that things shifted. Suddenly, he wasn't drained, he wasn't waiting for validation, and ironically, that's when people began to notice his quiet strength. Isn't it interesting how when you stop needing something from others, they start giving it to you? Detachment is also a skill in relationships. Maybe you've been in situations where someone's moods controlled your entire day. If they were happy, you felt secure. If they were distant, you spiraled. But when you learn to detach, you start to realize their emotions are theirs to manage, not yours to fix. You can care deeply about someone without losing yourself in their storms. In fact, that's the only way to build relationships that are healthy rather than suffocating. Ask yourself, am I holding on because I care or because I'm afraid of letting go? One practical way to practice detachment is through perspective. The next time you feel consumed by someone's words or actions, imagine zooming out of your life, like looking at it from above. Ask yourself, will this matter in a year? Will this matter in 5 years? Often, the thing that feels earth-shattering in the moment loses its grip when you see the bigger picture. Another way is setting clear boundaries. That doesn't mean walls. It means choosing where your energy goes and refusing to pour it into people or situations that drain you. Detachment doesn't make you weaker. It makes you unshakable. It's the difference between being a tree rooted in the ground versus a leaf blown around by every gust of wind. The tree still experiences storms, but it stands firm. The leaf has no anchor. Which one do you want to be? When you detach, you're not dismissing life. You're engaging with it from a place of strength instead of desperation. You're saying, I can love, I can care, I can work hard, but I won't lose myself in the process. And that truly is freedom. There is a quiet kind of strength that comes from not giving people access to your every thought, your every reaction, your every move. When you stop over-explaining yourself and start letting your actions speak, something shifts in the way people perceive you. Think about it. How often do we rush to defend ourselves, to justify why we did something, or to prove that we're good enough? That desperation to be understood gives away your power. But when you hold back, when you let people wonder instead of handing them all the answers, you suddenly become someone they can't quite figure out. And that mystery is power. I remember a young woman who worked in a fast-paced office where gossip traveled faster than work emails. Anytime someone said something about her, she felt the need to confront it, to explain herself, to clear her name. She was exhausted, always chasing approval. But then she made a decision. She would no longer explain herself unless it truly mattered. When people whispered, she stayed calm. When someone questioned her, she simply answered with grace and moved on. At first, the office was shocked. Then they started respecting her, because they realized she wasn't easy to rattle. Her calm became her armor, and her silence spoke louder than any defense she could have given. Doesn't that make you wonder? How much of your peace are you sacrificing by trying to prove yourself all the time? Staying calm and letting others wonder isn't about being arrogant or dismissive. It's about choosing dignity over drama. It's about understanding that not everyone deserves a front row seat to your emotions. Sometimes the most powerful response is no reaction at all. Think about the last time someone pushed your buttons, waiting for you to blow up. What if instead you just smiled, walked away, and kept moving forward? They'd be left unsettled, questioning their own behavior instead of feeding off yours. Isn't that a better kind of victory? Actionable advice here is simple but not easy. The next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, pause, ask, do I owe this explanation, or am I giving away my power? Another practice is to embrace silence in uncomfortable moments. Silence is not weakness, it's a tool. Use it wisely. People are wired to fill silence, and often they reveal more about themselves when you simply hold your ground without rushing to speak. There's also strength in remembering that people only know what you allow them to know. If you give them everything, they'll take it for granted. If you give them just enough, they'll lean in, they'll wonder, and they'll respect your boundaries. And in that space, you reclaim control of your life. You show the world that you don't need to broadcast every thought or defend every choice to stand tall. So the question is, are you ready to stop over-explaining, stop overreacting, and let people wonder who you are becoming. Because when you do, you stop living for their understanding and start living in your own undeniable strength. At the end of the day, real strength isn't about shouting louder, explaining longer, or proving harder. It's about knowing who you are